Welcome. I am Steve Clemens, editor-at-large of The Hill. Thank you for joining us on day one of the 2020 Democratic National Convention, a convention that will be virtual, just like our event here. The coronavirus pandemic has taken its toll on a number of our traditions, and the presidential nominating conventions are no exception. Even though the Democratic Convention programming is limited to a few hours each night, it's action-packed. We at The Hill are using our virtual platforms to keep up a steady drumbeat of coverage and conversations through the day and week. You can watch our events and catch up on the latest convention news at our conventions hub on our website, thehill.com. What you can expect this week and next when the Republicans gather virtually is a series of smart, thoughtful, timely, and relevant events at 11 a.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Eastern that will reach you where you are. Our events each morning during the Democratic Convention will focus on the big questions about the real impact of COVID-19 on a presidential election, the role of social media and digital targeting, the battle for Congress, the pulse of the American voter, and the Democratic ticket of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and their strategy for victory on November 3rd. I'd like to thank our sponsor, the American Petroleum Institute, for their support of today's event. Before we get underway, a few housekeeping notes. You can tweet us at @TheHillEvents using the hashtag #TheHill2020. Very simple. We're broadcasting live. As with any live stream, you could experience occasional trouble with the video. I always laugh when we get to that part, but good luck. Refreshing the page should, in most cases, fix the problem. Without further ado, let's dive right in with our first guest of the morning. Congresswoman Gwen Moore is the first African-American elected to Congress from Wisconsin. She is the Sergeant at Arms of the convention and is going to be speaking tonight as the Democrats kick off their program. Welcome, Congressman Gwen Moore. It's great to see you again. Let me just ask you, because is it any different being Sergeant of Arms when everybody would have been gathered together in Milwaukee versus the online challenges you have now? Is Chuck Schumer going to be more difficult to control?
I think Chuck is. I think if I could control Mitch McConnell, that would be the dream job for me. You know, this is very, very exciting. And, I grieved over the loss of this convention so long ago. And I am now, day one, just excited to be able to be here, even with this forum. You know, when you look at it and you think about making lemonade out of lemons, I look at so many opportunities that we may not have had were it not for these platforms. We're going to have an amazing training academy that's going to be available to delegates all across the country as we unify around our strategies to get the vote out, to try to beat back the assault on the post office and mail-in deliveries and share ideas about how to do that. We're going to be able to Zoom from room to room to attend the Women's Caucus and maybe the Equality Caucus. I had an amazing meeting last night with Wisconsin delegates where we had side rooms, and I met people that I would have never had the opportunity to meet all across the state. And of course, we have luminaries from all within our party who are going to be joining us throughout the week. Today is going to be very exciting, besides the fact that I'm going to speak, I think.
Exactly.
I think we're going to see, we're going to see Andrew Cuomo, we're going to see Bernie Sanders, and of course, Michelle Obama.
Well, look,
I think that we're going to have a very successful
They're all great, but
convention.
You're the top of my list because you're with us today. And you're going to be one of the few speakers actually in the center tonight. And so I'd love to just, if it's not, given away too much, what are the themes you're going to highlight in your speech this evening?
Well, my job is really very difficult, but it's also very simple. And that is to welcome people to Milwaukee and to sort of give them a little flavor of what Milwaukee is about. And it'll all be done in 1 minute. And of course, I have had perfect training for those 1 minute by being a member of Congress since 2005. But in 1 minute, we're going to really get people to understand that this is part of a family with a big job to do on November 3rd.
As you and your colleagues have struggled in this time where we've not only had the protests and the issues about inequality and police brutality after George Floyd's murder. We've had a pandemic, of course, hitting and changing everything as we knew it. We have over 54 million people who've applied for unemployment. How is your party, how is the Democratic Party going to put together a package that deals with these three assaults on the nation?
You know, that is the real question. You know, what is one of the things, for example, that's been very puzzling to me is how many Americans believe that Donald Trump has done a better job with the economy. And it's our task to educate them, to number one, remind them that it was under President Obama, with Joe Biden by his side, that we pulled ourselves out of the Great Recession to create the economy that Donald Trump inherited and now, even pre-COVID, was destroying. You know, I'm from Wisconsin, and for example, and I represent very few rural folk, but Wisconsin is an agricultural state yet. And we have seen our farmers commit suicide, quite frankly. We've seen a record loss of family farms in our state, and a lot of it has had to do with the malpractice of this presidency. So I think that it's our chore, number one, to demonstrate that we're the party that wants them to have health care, to remind them during a pandemic that one of the reasons that there's such a huge divide in outcomes is because so many people had underlying conditions that weren't addressed ahead of time. We're the party that wants you to have health care. We're the party that wants to raise the minimum wage. We're the party that wants to get you the unemployment and not perceive that you're gaming the system because due to no fault of your own, you lost your job. And I think that that Wisconsin, Milwaukee provides the perfect backdrop for showing people that we respect workers and that we respect a very, very diverse America, since Milwaukee itself is one of the most diverse places in the country.
You raised, Congresswoman, the U.S. Postal Service. The Postmaster General has come out and said that the postal system will deliver all the mail on time that's appropriately bundled in the packages that it has. Nancy Pelosi is convening Congress again to basically try and stop any changes in mail processing infrastructure and changes before the election. What can the House really do, and what are the limits of what it can do?
Well, that's very important. First of all, I'm grateful to Speaker Pelosi for bringing us back in because, we have to trust but verify. They've already told us what's in their playbook. We've already seen them removing mailboxes and slowing down workers and firing all of the leadership in the post office. So I am glad that she's bringing us back to try to number one, have the Postmaster General come before us and, explain what he's doing, and for us to tell them to cease and desist. And I also hope that we have a legal strategy to try to stop them from taking away this constitutionally guaranteed right to vote and this constitutional institution in the post office, and this institution that has 91% approval rating among the American public.
What do you think Kamala Harris will bring to the ticket along with Vice President Biden?
Well, honest to God, we could not be more proud of having Kamala Harris be to stand side by side with Joe Biden. I think what she brings to the table is very, very obvious. I mean, she is brilliant. But not only is she brilliant, but she has also shown her compassion. And I'll give you an example. There's a lot of comments about her being a prosecutor. But who has she prosecuted? She's prosecuted oil companies that have destroyed the environment. She's prosecuted banks that have thrown people out of their homes errantly and foreclosed on them because of bank scams. I mean, she's gone after people who have hurt the least of us. And this she has truly used her perch as law enforcement to benefit the least of us. So she's smart and she's compassionate. And I tell you, in a year where we are relying on white women for the first time since the 60s to vote for Democrats, it is very important for us to give them yet another opportunity to do that. And I think Kamala is a woman, and a woman of color, not just Black, but American Indian. She's an immigrant. She is someone that really we can see ourselves in her. You know, as an immigrant, as a woman, as a person of color, as a person who doesn't have the ways and means to make it in this rough economy. We see hope in a Kamala Harris.
I can sense your excitement for the senator, and we look forward, of course, to hearing her speech. I want to also touch on something. You know, I'm such a fan of your work on jobs and your focus on, you know, people that have been left behind. I interviewed Vice President Biden right before the election between Senator Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And he said, you know, whether we have or not, the public has the impression that the Democratic Party had become a party of snobs, and we need to fix that. And I'm just wondering, you know, given you've talked a lot about this and the changes to the party, has the party made that shift to reaching, you know, real people with real challenges and real problems today? Because Vice President Biden told me once that it wasn't cutting it.
You know what? I tell you, Joe Biden's misfortune in his life has come to be a fortune for the American people. Here's a guy who commuted daily or commuted regularly back and forth between Delaware and Washington, D.C. Because he was a single parent. I mean, how many other men in politics or in the corporate world have had the experience that millions of women have every single day? Trying to bring home the bacon, fry it up in the pan. During this pandemic, we got to be the school teachers. We're the people that have to scrub the toilet out. He's done this. And this is one of the things that has given him the greatest empathy for the stuff that I care about. And that is lifting people out of poverty. I mean, you know, his initiatives around child care and the child tax credit, and I want to expand the earned income tax credit to include some of the 140 million Americans that Reverend Liz Theo Harris and Reverend William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign talk about all the time. They're hardworking, but they're low wealth. They can't make ends meet on $7.25 an hour. You know, we cannot go back to pre-COVID economic climate. And Joe Biden, given his experience, it is something that has humbled him in a way that is going to inure to the benefit of so many millions of Americans who have not really had a stake in America until this point.
Congresswoman, I could talk to you for hours. We're just right at the end. It's really fascinating, and I look forward to more opportunities. But just as you said, one of the controversies that the convention will be facing is that some members of your caucus are not thrilled that Medicare for All is not part of the platform. Is that going to somehow be resolved and to percolate in a way that those members that vote against the platform because of that absence, that you're somehow still going to get beyond that, get over that? Is there, you know, are you going to be able to hold together over this vital question of how we handle health care for Americans down the road?
You know, I think that Medicare for All is a concept that, and a construct that most Democrats agree with, to the extent that we believe in universal health care. And I think that what we're going to do going forward is to focus on what we agree with, that every single American should have a right to health care. But I think we have to start where we are. And where we are is, we have a president who is in court trying to destroy the Affordable Care Act. We have a president who has said that should he win again, he wants to destroy Social Security, which would, of course, undermine Medicare, which is a large. So this is where we are. We should not be in a pissing match about what Medicare for all means. We've got to have universal health care. And I think that the Biden-Harris campaign is committed to that construct. And I think that that is going to satisfy most of our members. Make no mistake, Bernie Sanders has made a big impact on this. The pandemic has demonstrated the absolute inefficiency of a fee-for-service healthcare system. It has absolutely stood up arguments against paying twice as much for healthcare and having the worst results. Twice as much. Americans pay twice as much for healthcare. We have the greatest obesity rates, the highest maternal mortality rates, and infant mortality rates than anybody in the so-called among the wealthy countries. So their arguments are going to have an impact.
Well, thank you so much for that, Representative Gwen Moore. I want to remind everybody you can see her tonight speaking at the Wisconsin Center, off telling everybody about Milwaukee and what's going to unfold during this fascinating week. Thank you so much for joining us today.